Minnesota Real Estate Test Prep. Question 1. Which deed gives Finley Rivera the broadest set of title warranties from the grantor? Option A, General Warranty Deed. Option B, Quitclaim Deed. Option C, Bargain and Sale Deed with no covenants. Option D, Tax Certificate only. The correct answer is option A, General Warranty Deed. A general warranty deed provides the strongest customary covenants of title from the grantor. A quitclaim deed conveys whatever interest the grantor has without warranties. A bargain and sale deed without covenants and a tax certificate provide less assurance than a general warranty deed. Question 2. A listing contract says it may be cancelled only under certain stated conditions. Why does that matter for Blair in Edina involving a lake cabin priced at $416,000? Option A, cancellation terms are never allowed in listing agreements. Option B, Minnesota listing agreements must explain whether cancellation is allowed and the terms for cancellation. Option C, only the buyer may cancel a seller's listing. Option D, the broker can cancel only by recording a deed. The correct answer is option B. Minnesota listing agreements must explain whether cancellation is allowed and the terms for cancellation. Minnesota listing agreements must include a clear statement explaining if the agreement may be cancelled and the cancellation terms. The issue is contract clarity, not deed recording or buyer control. Stated cancellation terms help prevent disputes. Question 3. Before Drew schedules the salesperson examination after studying in Stillwater, which pre-license course must already be completed? Option A, Course 2 only. Option B, Course 3 only. Option C, Course I. Option D, the annual continuing education module. The correct answer is option C, Course I. Course I must be successfully completed before a candidate registers for the salesperson examination. Course 2 and Course 3 are required before license application, while the annual module is a continuing education requirement for licensees. Confusing pre-license and continuing education rules leads to the wrong result. Question 4. If Kendall Chen tells the licensee that the seller will not perform under the signed purchase agreement, what must the licensee do? Option A, keep the information confidential until the closing date. Option B, cancel the agreement without telling the buyer. Option C, disclose only if the seller misses a loan contingency. Option D, immediately disclose the stated intent not to perform to the other party or parties. The correct answer is option D, immediately disclose the stated intent not to perform to the other party or parties. A licensee put on notice that a party will not perform according to the transaction agreement must disclose that intent to the other party or parties. Keeping the information secret would mislead the other side. The rule is different from a party's inability to satisfy a contingency. Question 5. A Minneapolis salesperson asks whether Minnesota state law or a private study guide controls if they conflict. Which source governs? Option A, Minnesota law governs the licensing issue. Option B, the private study guide controls if newer. Option C, a salesperson's office custom controls. Option D, the buyer's preferred answer controls. The correct answer is option A. Minnesota law governs the licensing issue. Official guidance makes clear that Minnesota law governs licensing issues. Study guides and office customs are learning tools or business practices, not controlling law. A buyer's preference cannot override statutory requirements. Question 6. A garage built on Emerson Wilson's land extends 2 feet over the boundary onto a neighbor's parcel. What issue is created? Option A, hypothecation. Option B, encroachment. Option C is subrogation. Option D, reconciliation. The correct answer is option B, encroachment. An encroachment occurs when an improvement physically intrudes onto another parcel. Hypothecation pledges property for debt, subrogation substitutes one party's claim, and reconciliation is an appraisal conclusion step. The garage crossing the boundary is the key fact. Question 7. Before negotiating a purchase involving a licensee's sibling as a principal, what should the licensee do for Emerson and Woodbury involving a single-family home priced at $379,000? Option A, say nothing because relatives are not licensees. Option B, disclose only after the commission is paid. Option C, disclose the relationship in writing before negotiating or consummating the transaction. Option D, ask the lender to disclose it instead. The correct answer is option C, disclose the relationship in writing before negotiating or consummating the transaction. Minnesota requires written disclosure when a principal is a licensee's relative or business associate. Waiting until after commission payment is too late, and the duty is not shifted to the lender. The rule protects parties from undisclosed conflicts of interest. Question 8. If Skylar passes the salesperson examination on a spring test date, how long does the candidate generally have to apply for the license before retaking the exam is required for Skylar in Maple Grove involving a rental house priced at $372,500? Option A, 30 days from passing the examination. Option B, 3 years from passing the examination. Option C, until the next broker renewal cycle only. Option D, 1 year from passing the examination. The correct answer is option D, 1 year from passing the examination. Minnesota guidance states that the salesperson license application must be made within 1 year after passing the examination. Shorter periods such as 30 days are too restrictive, and longer periods ignore the retake requirement. The broker renewal cycle does not control the candidate's examination validity period. Question 9. A loan payment schedule gradually reduces principal until the loan balance reaches zero. What financing term describes this for Reese in Bloomington involving a condominium unit priced at $223,500? Option A, amortization. Option B, accretion. Option C, subordination. Option D, cheat. The correct answer is option A, amortization. Amortization is repayment of a debt through payments that reduce principal over time. Accretion is natural land buildup. Subordination changes lien priority, and cheat transfers property to the state when no heirs exist. The decreasing loan balance is the clue. Question 10. For Casey Thompson's first real estate job in Stillwater, who submits the Minnesota salesperson license application after the applicant becomes associated with a broker? Option A, the applicant directly through a personal account only. Option B, the licensed real estate broker with whom the applicant is associated. Option C, the listing client from the applicant's first transaction. Option D, the county recorder in the county where the applicant lives. The correct answer is option B, the licensed real estate broker with whom the applicant is associated. A Minnesota salesperson must be associated with a licensed broker, and the broker submits the license application. The applicant alone does not file the salesperson application. Clients have no filing role, and county recorders do not issue salesperson licenses. Broker sponsorship is central to salesperson licensure. Question 11. When Taylor, a licensee, intends to buy a client's property in Blaine, what disclosure is required before negotiation or consummation? Option A, the licensee may stay silent if paying full market value. Option B, the disclosure is needed only after the deed is recorded. Option C, the licensee must affirmatively disclose the license status and the capacity in which the licensee is acting. Option D, only the buyer's lender must be told about the license. The correct answer is option C. The licensee must affirmatively disclose the license status and the capacity in which the licensee is acting. A Minnesota licensee who acquires or intends to acquire an interest in real property must disclose the license status and capacity before negotiation or consummation. Paying market value does not remove the conflict risk, and post-recording disclosure would be too late. Lender-only notice does not satisfy disclosure to the property owner. Question 12. A lender offers Harper Johnson a mortgage whose interest rate can change based on an index after an initial period. What type of loan is this? Option A, package mortgage only. Option B, open-end listing. Option C, graduated lease. Option D, adjustable rate mortgage. The correct answer is option D, adjustable rate mortgage. An adjustable rate mortgage has an interest rate that may change according to an index and loan terms. A package mortgage includes personal property, an open-end listing is not a standard listing type, and a graduated lease changes rent over time. The index-based interest change identifies the loan type. Question 13. Gradual soil buildup along a stream increases a parcel's size. What term best fits for Finley and Red Wing involving a mixed-use property priced at $228,000? Option A, accretion. Option B, divulsion. Option C, condemnation. Option D, defeasance. The correct answer is option A, accretion. Accretion is gradual addition of land through natural forces. Avulsion is sudden change. Condemnation is taking by eminent domain, and defeasance concerns loan satisfaction. Gradual buildup is the key clue. Question 14. Before advertising Hayden Johnson's townhome to the general public, what must a Minnesota licensee obtain? Option A. An oral promise that the owner may list later. Option B. A signed listing agreement or other signed written authorization from the owner or authorized person. Option C. A buyer's pre-approval letter. Option D. A tax parcel map from the county. The correct answer is option B. A signed listing agreement or other signed written authorization from the owner or authorized person. A licensee must have a signed listing agreement or other signed written authorization before advertising real property for sale or lease to the general public. Oral permission is not enough for this requirement. Buyer pre-approval and tax maps may be useful, but they do not authorize public advertising. Question 15. A buyer asks whether a nursing home in the neighborhood must be disclosed as a material fact. How does Minnesota treat that issue for Taylor and Blaine involving a newly built townhouse priced at $235,000? Option A. It is always a material defect in the property. Option B. It requires a separate appraisal license. Option C. The location of a nursing home nearby is not a material fact that must be disclosed merely for that reason. Option D. It makes the deed void. The correct answer is option C. The location of a nursing home nearby is not a material fact that must be disclosed merely for that reason. Minnesota law excludes certain neighborhood-related facilities, including nursing homes, from material fact treatment merely because they are nearby. This does not remove duties to disclose physical defects or known material facts. Appraisal licensing and deed validity are unrelated. Question 16. Which fiduciary duty requires a broker to follow a client's lawful directions for Avery and Rochester involving a townhome priced at $313,500? Option A is cheat. Option B, novation. Option C, subordination. Option D, obedience. The correct answer is option D, obedience. Obedience requires following lawful client instructions. It does not require obeying illegal instructions or ignoring disclosure duties. Cheat, novation, and subordination are unrelated legal concepts. Question 17. A buyer receives a qualified third-party inspection report, but the licensee knows a fact that contradicts it. What must the licensee do for Taylor and Blaine involving a newly built townhouse priced at $340,000? Option A, disclose known facts that contradict the report. Option B, stay silent because the report always controls. Option C, destroy the report and order a new one. Option D, tell only the inspector after closing. The correct answer is option A, disclose known facts that contradict the report. A licensee may rely on a qualified third-party report unless the licensee knows facts that contradict it. Known contradictions must be disclosed to the parties. Silence, destruction of the report, or delayed notice would undermine the disclosure duty. Question 18. If one broker represents both Parker Lee and Kendall Davis in a residential transaction, what must occur before the broker acts as a dual agent? Option A. Only the seller must consent because the seller listed the property. Option B. All parties must give informed consent to the dual agency relationship. Option C. The broker may proceed without consent if the commission is reduced. Option D. Consent is unnecessary if two different salespersons are involved. The correct answer is option B. All parties must give informed consent to the dual agency relationship. Dual agency requires informed consent from the parties because the broker owes duties to both sides and cannot advocate exclusively for either one. A lower commission does not remove the conflict, and two salespersons licensed to the same broker can still create dual agency. Seller-only consent is not enough. Question 19. During a Egan license renewal review, which continuing education schedule best matches Minnesota salesperson requirements for Sawyer and Egan involving a newly built townhouse priced at $334,500? Option A, 10 hours every 4 years with no annual deadline. Option B, 30 hours only during the first licensing year. Option C, 30 hours before the June 30th renewal deadline, with at least 15 hours completed before the previous June 30th. Option D, only the required module with no other continuing education. The correct answer is option C, 30 hours before the June 30th renewal deadline, with at least 15 hours completed before the previous June 30th. Minnesota salespersons generally need 30 hours of continuing education before the June 30th renewal deadline, with at least 15 hours due before the previous June 30th. The other options understate the hours, remove the annual structure, or treat the module as the only requirement. Continuing education must be completed in the proper license period. Question 20. Under federal fair housing law, which group is a protected class in the sale or rental of housing for Drew and Stillwater involving a condominium unit priced at $470,500? Option A, credit score above 700. Option B, preference for lakefront homes. Option C, employment in real estate sales. Option D, familial status. The correct answer is option D, familial status. Familial status is a protected class under federal fair housing law. Credit score, housing preferences, and occupation in real estate are not protected classes by themselves. Housing decisions must avoid discrimination based on protected characteristics. Question 21. In Rochester, a new applicant asks which combination best describes the salesperson licensing path in Minnesota for Avery in Rochester involving a small retail building priced at $424,000. Option A. Be at least 18, complete courses 1, 2, and 3, pass the exam, associate with a broker, and receive Commerce Department approval. Option B. Be at least 21, complete only course I, and work independently after passing the exam. Option C, complete continuing education before any pre-license education and apply directly without a broker. Option D, pass only the national exam and begin practicing while the application is pending. The correct answer is option A. Be at least 18, complete courses 1, 2, and 3, pass the exam, associate with a broker, and receive Commerce Department approval. Minnesota salesperson licensing requires age eligibility, 3 30-hour pre-license courses, examination success, broker association, and approval by the Commerce Department. The other choices either remove required courses, allow independent practice, or treat a pending application as authority to act. Those alternatives do not satisfy the licensing sequence. Question 22. A zoning ordinance limits building height in Egan. What government power is most directly involved for Sawyer in Egan involving a small retail building priced at $427,500? Option A, eminent domain. Option B, police power. Option C, this cheat. Option D, taxation only. The correct answer is option B, police power. Police power allows government to regulate property use for health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Eminent domain is taking for public use, escheat handles ownerless property, and taxation raises revenue. Zoning is a classic police power regulation. Question 23. A social media ad for a fourplex in St. Cloud uses a team name. What must the advertisement clearly and conspicuously display for Parker in St. Cloud involving a fourplex priced at $228,500? Option A. Only the salesperson's nickname. Option B. Only the property street address. Option C. The real estate brokerage name. Option D. Only the team logo without the brokerage. The correct answer is option C. The real estate brokerage name. Minnesota advertising rules require the brokerage name to be clearly and conspicuously displayed. A team name may be used only with broker authorization and the brokerage name still must appear. Nicknames, street addresses, and logos do not replace the required brokerage identification. Question 24. At the end of a Minnesota tenancy, what must a landlord generally do with the tenant's security deposit after receiving a forwarding address for Taylor and Blaine involving a newly built townhouse priced at $437,500? Option A. Keep the entire deposit automatically as a cleaning fee. Option B. Apply the deposit to the broker's commission. Option C. Record the deposit with the county as a deed restriction. Option D. Return the deposit plus interest or provide a written explanation of lawful deductions within the required time. The correct answer is option D. Return the deposit plus interest or provide a written explanation of lawful deductions within the required time. Minnesota law requires the landlord to return the deposit with interest or provide a written explanation for lawful deductions within the required period. Automatic forfeiture, commission payment, and county deed restrictions do not match the security deposit rules. Security deposits remain tenant funds unless a lawful deduction applies. Question 25. A rumor says a Mankato home was once the site of a natural death and possible paranormal activity. Under Minnesota disclosure rules, how is that fact treated for Quinn in Mankato involving a lake cabin priced at $256,000? Option A. It is not treated as a material fact that must be disclosed merely for that reason. Option B. It must always be disclosed in the listing contract. Option C. It makes the property unmarketable until court approval. Option D. It requires the buyer to receive a separate environmental report. The correct answer is option A. It is not treated as a material fact that must be disclosed merely for that reason. Minnesota law states that certain stigmatizing facts, such as suicide, natural death, or perceived paranormal activity, are not material facts requiring disclosure merely because they occurred. That does not change the duty to disclose physical defects or other material facts. Listing contracts, court approval, and environmental reports address different issues. Question 26. A Granite Realty branch office wants licensees to access current Minnesota statutes and rules electronically. Is electronic access acceptable for Parker and St. Cloud involving a fourplex priced at $439,500? Option A. No, only a paper binder signed by every buyer is allowed. Option B. Yes, access to required statutes and rules may be made available electronically. Option C. Yes, but only if clients pay a records fee. Option D. No, statutes are never required in real estate offices. The correct answer is option B. Yes, access to required statutes and rules may be made available electronically. Minnesota standards allow access to required statutes and rules through an electronic agent. A paper-only rule, client fee requirement, or no access approach misstates the standard. The point is that licensees must have current legal resources available. Question 27. In a dual agency situation in Rochester, why must the licensee avoid advocating exclusively for one party for Avery in Rochester involving a townhome priced at $290,500? Option A. The broker becomes a government mediator. Option B. The buyer automatically becomes the broker's only client. Option C. The broker owes duties to both buyer and seller within the limits of dual agency. Option D. The seller's broker relationship disappears at acceptance. The correct answer is option C. The broker owes duties to both buyer and seller within the limits of dual agency. Dual agency means the broker owes duties to both sides and must work within those limits. The broker is not converted into a government mediator, and neither party becomes the only client. Acceptance of an offer does not eliminate the agency relationship or the disclosure limits. Question 28. A Minnesota salesperson renewal fee includes a contribution to which fund for Emerson and Woodbury involving a mixed-use property priced at $209,000? Option A. Federal Flood Insurance Reserve. Option B. County Recording Technology Fund only. Option C. Private MLS Scholarship Account. Option D. Real Estate Education, Research and Recovery Fund. The correct answer is option D. Real Estate Education, Research and Recovery Fund. Minnesota salesperson license fees include an amount for the Real Estate Education, Research and Recovery Fund. Flood insurance reserves, county recording funds, and private MLS accounts are unrelated. The fund is part of the state licensing fee structure. Question 29. A contract substitutes a new party and releases the original party from liability. Which term best describes that change for Riley in Duluth involving a farm parcel priced at $200,000? Option A. Novation. Option B. Assignment only. Option C. Accretion. Option D. Hypothecation. The correct answer is option A. Novation. Novation substitutes a new obligation or party and releases the original party when all required parties agree. Assignment transfers rights but does not necessarily release the assignor. Accretion and hypothecation involve land buildup and pledging property as security. Question 30. A St. Paul listing agreement omits the real property description. What required element is missing for Morgan in St. Paul involving a rental house priced at $466,000? Option A. The buyer's credit score. Option B. A description of the real property involved. Option C. The lender's underwriting model. Option D. The appraiser's license number. The correct answer is option B. A description of the real property involved. Minnesota listing agreements must describe the real property involved. A buyer's credit score, underwriting model, or appraiser license number is not a required listing agreement element. The contract must identify the property being offered. Question 31. A zoning board permits a property use that otherwise violates strict zoning because of unique hardship. What relief is typically granted for Jordan and Eden Prairie involving a vacant lot priced at $332,500? Option A. Certificate of title. Option B. Quitclaim covenant. Option C. Variance. Option D. Mortgage assumption. The correct answer is option C. Variance. A variance provides relief from strict zoning requirements when legal standards are met, often involving unique hardship. Certificates of title, quitclaim deeds, and mortgage assumptions do not authorize zoning deviations. Land use approval is the issue. Question 32. Which Minnesota tax is generally associated with recording a mortgage that secures debt on real property for Quinn in Mankato involving a lake cabin priced at $403,500? Option A. Personal income withholding tax. Option B. Sales tax on furniture. Option C. Special assessment appeal fee. Option D. Mortgage registry tax. The correct answer is option D. Mortgage registry tax. Mortgage registry tax is tied to the recording of a mortgage securing debt. Personal income withholding, furniture sales tax, and assessment appeals are different issues. The exam often distinguishes mortgage registry tax from deed tax. Question 33. Under Minnesota licensing rules, what happens when a salesperson's association with an actively licensed broker ends for Avery in Rochester involving a townhome priced at $332,000? Option A. The salesperson's license becomes inactive until proper association is restored. Option B. The salesperson may continue independently for 90 days. Option C. The salesperson automatically becomes a limited broker. Option D. The salesperson may transfer clients without broker supervision. The correct answer is option A. The salesperson's license becomes inactive until proper association is restored. A salesperson license depends on active association with a licensed broker. Ending that association makes the license inactive, so independent practice is not allowed. Automatic broker status and unsupervised client transfers are not part of the salesperson licensing structure. Question 34. Why might Jordan Rivera use a quitclaim deed to clear a possible title issue? Option A. It guarantees the property is free of every lien. Option B. It transfers whatever interest the grantor may have without making title warranties. Option C. It creates a new mortgage automatically. Option D. It replaces the need for delivery and acceptance. The correct answer is option B. It transfers whatever interest the grantor may have without making title warranties. A quitclaim deed can release or transfer any interest the grantor may have, but it does not warrant title quality. It does not guarantee lien-free ownership or create a mortgage. Like other deeds, it still depends on proper execution, delivery, and acceptance. Question 35. If assessed value is $355,300 and the tax rate is 20 mils, what is the annual property tax? Option A, $1,823. Option B, $6,732. Option C, $7,106. Option D, $37,400. The correct answer is option C, $7,106. A mil is $1 per $1,000 of assessed value, so the tax is assessed value multiplied by mils divided by 1,000. Monthly interest, points, and down payment are financing calculations. Millage questions require converting mils to a decimal rate. Question 36. A $462,500 sale carries a 7% commission. What is the total commission before any split? Option A, $92,500. Option B, $3,700. Option C, $9,666. Option D, $32,375. The correct answer is option D, $32,375. Total commission is found by multiplying the sale price by the commission rate. Down payment, discount points, and property tax calculations use different bases. The phrase before any split means the full brokerage commission is calculated first. Question 37. If a broker provides the predatory offender registry notice in a timely manner, what is generally true about offender registry information for Casey in Minneapolis involving a mixed-use property priced at $198,500? Option A. The broker has no duty to disclose specific registry information beyond the required notice. Option B. The broker must personally investigate every nearby resident. Option C. The broker must guarantee no offenders live in the city. Option D. The broker must cancel the purchase agreement automatically. The correct answer is option A. The broker has no duty to disclose specific registry information beyond the required notice. Minnesota disclosure law limits a licensee's duty regarding registry information when the required notice is provided. The broker does not guarantee neighborhood conditions or act as law enforcement. Automatic contract cancellation is not the disclosure rule. Question 38. A broker learns that a foundation defect could significantly affect Casey Nguyen's use of a farm parcel in Stillwater. What should the broker do? Option A. Stay silent because the defect might reduce the seller's price. Option B. Disclose the material fact to the prospective purchaser. Option C. Disclose only after closing if the buyer complains. Option D. Treat the defect as confidential even if it affects use and enjoyment. The correct answer is option B. Disclose the material fact to the prospective purchaser. Known material facts that could adversely and significantly affect an ordinary buyer's use or enjoyment must be disclosed. Protecting a sale price does not excuse non-disclosure, and waiting until after closing defeats the purpose of the rule. Confidentiality does not cover facts that law requires to be disclosed. Question 39. An advertisement says a townhome is available only for adults with no children. What is the main fair housing concern for Taylor and Blaine involving a townhome priced at $288,500? Option A. The ad forgot to mention the roof age. Option B. The ad uses a list price instead of an appraised value. Option C. The statement indicates a preference or limitation based on familial status. Option D. The ad includes the city name. The correct answer is option C. The statement indicates a preference or limitation based on familial status. Advertising cannot indicate a discriminatory preference or limitation based on familial status except where a valid housing for older persons exemption applies. Roof age, list price, and city name are not the fair housing issue in the wording. The problem is discouraging families with children. Question 40. A Bloomington parcel contains 9 acres. How many square feet are in the parcel? Option A, $12,000. Option B, $243,600. Option C, $4,659. Option D, $392,040. The correct answer is option D, $392,040. 1 acre contains 43,560 square feet, so acreage is converted by multiplying acres by 43,560. Frontage value, loan amount, and tax amount are calculated from different data. Unit conversion is a common real estate math task. Question 41. A sudden flood removes soil from a riverbank in Beltrami County. What term describes the sudden loss for Avery and Rochester involving a newly built townhouse priced at $410,500? Option A, avulsion. Option B, accretion. Option C, assemblage. Option D, plottage. The correct answer is option A, avulsion. Avulsion is sudden loss or change of land by natural forces. Accretion is gradual buildup, assemblage combines parcels, and plottage is the value increase from assemblage. The word sudden distinguishes avulsion. Question 42. Why should a purchase agreement for a single-family home in Woodbury be in writing and signed by the party to be charged? Option A. All oral contracts are criminal offenses. Option B. The statute of frauds requires most real estate sale contracts to be in writing to be enforceable. Option C. Only lenders may sign real estate contracts. Option D. A deed is unnecessary if the parties shake hands. The correct answer is option B. The statute of frauds requires most real estate sale contracts to be in writing to be enforceable. The statute of frauds generally requires contracts for the sale of real property to be in writing and signed by the party to be charged. Oral agreements may fail enforceability even if the parties intended a deal. Lender-only signatures and handshake transfers do not replace the required written contract and later conveyance documents. Question 43. Why is the Minnesota agency disclosure form given to Cameron Miller not enough by itself to create representation? Option A. It automatically creates dual agency for every transaction. Option B. It replaces all purchase agreement requirements. Option C. It is a disclosure only, and representation requires a written listing contract or buyer representation contract. Option D. It gives the consumer a license to sell property. The correct answer is option C. It is a disclosure only, and representation requires a written listing contract or buyer representation contract. The agency disclosure form informs consumers about relationship options but does not create representation. Representation requires a written contract such as a listing agreement or buyer representation contract. The other choices confuse disclosure with dual agency, purchase contracts, or licensing authority. Question 44. A buyer representation agreement in Winona is best described as what type of document? Option A. A deed transferring title to the buyer. Option B. A loan commitment from the lender. Option C. A property tax statement from the county. Option D. A written contract that creates agency representation for the buyer. The correct answer is option D. A written contract that creates agency representation for the buyer. A buyer representation agreement is the written contract that creates buyer agency. It does not transfer title, approve financing, or state county taxes. Representation contracts define the broker-client relationship and compensation terms. Question 45. Regarding commission language in a Minnesota listing agreement, which statement best reflects the required consumer notice for Rowan and Bemidji involving a vacant lot priced at $207,500? Option A. Compensation is determined between each individual broker and the broker's client. Option B. The state sets one mandatory commission rate for all residential listings. Option C. The MLS sets the minimum commission for every listing. Option D. The buyer must always pay the listing broker directly. The correct answer is option A. Compensation is determined between each individual broker and the broker's client. Minnesota listing agreements must include a notice that compensation is determined between the broker and the broker's client. The state and MLS do not set a universal commission rate for every transaction. Payment arrangements depend on the agreement and cannot be assumed from the listing alone. Question 46. A utility company has the right to run power lines across a Brainerd parcel. Which property right is usually involved for Harper and Brainerd involving a small retail building priced at $188,500? Option A, estate for years. Option B, easement in gross. Option C, divulsion. Option D, a remainder interest. The correct answer is option B, easement in gross. A utility easement often benefits a company rather than a neighboring parcel, making it an easement in gross. An estate for years is a leasehold, a vulsion is sudden land change, and a remainder follows a life estate. The utilities right is a non-possessory use right. Question 47. A St. Cloud buyer's loan has small monthly payments but one large final payment. What is that final payment called for Parker in St. Cloud involving a fourplex priced at $444,500? Option A, proration credit. Option B, replacement reserve. Option C, balloon payment. Option D, equity dividend. The correct answer is option C, balloon payment. A balloon payment is a large unpaid balance due at the end of a loan term. A proration credit divides expenses at closing, a replacement reserve funds future repairs, and an equity dividend is an investment return measure. The structure described is a financing feature. Question 48. A seller says the basement is perfectly dry despite knowing of repeated water intrusion. Why is that more than ordinary puffing for Hayden in Moorhead involving a duplex priced at $410,500? Option A. It is always protected opinion regardless of knowledge. Option B. It is allowed if the buyer gets a loan. Option C. It becomes legal if stated verbally instead of in writing. Option D. It is a factual misrepresentation about a material property condition. The correct answer is option D. It is a factual misrepresentation about a material property condition. A specific false statement about a known material condition can be misrepresentation. Puffing is general opinion, not a false factual claim about water problems. Financing approval or verbal delivery does not make a known material misstatement acceptable. Question 49. A residential buyer has not signed a representation contract. How should the licensee describe the buyer's status after agency disclosure for Drew and Stillwater involving a farm parcel priced at $216,500? Option A. The buyer is a customer unless and until a written representation contract is signed. Option B. The buyer is automatically a client forever. Option C. The buyer becomes the broker's employee. Option D. The buyer receives ownership rights in the brokerage. The correct answer is option A. The buyer is a customer unless and until a written representation contract is signed. Minnesota agency disclosure explains that a consumer is not represented until a written representation contract is signed. Customer status is different from client representation. Employment and ownership rights are not created by receiving agency disclosure. Question 50. A city takes private land for a public road after paying just compensation. What power is being exercised for Drew and Stillwater involving a farm parcel priced at $322,500? Option A is cheat. Option B, eminent domain. Option C, adverse possession. Option D, police power only. The correct answer is option B, eminent domain. Eminent domain is the government's power to take private property for public use with just compensation. Escheat transfers property to the state when no heirs exist, and adverse possession is private acquisition through possession. Police power regulates use but does not by itself describe a compensated taking. Question 51. A lender draws a line around a Anoka neighborhood and refuses otherwise qualified mortgage applicants there. What fair housing and lending term best fits for Hayden in Moorhead involving a duplex priced at $291,000? Option A, plottage. Option B, accretion. Option C, redlining. Option D, estoppel. The correct answer is option C, redlining. Redlining is denying or limiting credit in an area for discriminatory reasons rather than evaluating individual qualifications. Plottage relates to value from assemblage, accretion is natural land buildup, and estoppel prevents inconsistent claims. Area-based discriminatory lending violates fair lending principles. Question 52. A broker closes an existing trust account without notice. Why is that a problem under Minnesota trust account rules for Hayden in Moorhead involving a duplex priced at $390,000? Option A. Trust accounts may never be changed under any circumstances. Option B. Only buyers can close brokerage trust accounts. Option C. Trust accounts are optional for earnest money. Option D. A broker or closing agent must give written notice to the commissioner before closing an existing trust account. The correct answer is option D. A broker or closing agent must give written notice to the commissioner before closing an existing trust account. Minnesota rules require notice of trust account status changes and written notice before closing an existing account. This does not mean accounts can never change, but they must be properly reported. Buyers do not control brokerage trust accounts, and trust accounts are not optional when trust funds must be held. Question 53. A facilitator working with Blair and Woodbury performs services without representing either side. Which fiduciary duty generally remains unless expanded by written agreement? Option A. Confidentiality. Option B. Loyalty to the seller only. Option C. Obedience to the buyer's investment goals. Option D. Advocacy for the party paying the commission. The correct answer is option A. Confidentiality. A facilitator does not act in a fiduciary capacity as a buyer's broker, seller's broker, or dual agent, but confidentiality remains a duty unless the relationship is expanded by written agreement. Loyalty, obedience, and advocacy belong to agency representation, not ordinary facilitator status. Commission payment does not create fiduciary representation by itself. Question 54. Which lease gives a tenant possession for a fixed term that ends automatically on the stated expiration date for Drew and Stillwater involving a vacant lot priced at $314,500? Option A. Tenancy at sufferance. Option B. The state for years. Option C. Fee simple defeasible. Option D. Easement appurtenant. The correct answer is option B. Estate for years. An estate for years is a leasehold for a definite period and ends at the stated expiration. Tenancy at sufferance is holdover possession after lawful possession ends. Fee simple defeasible and easement appurtenant are not ordinary fixed-term leasehold estates. Question 55. A rental property produces $33,500 in net operating income and investors require a 6.5% capitalization rate. What value is indicated by the income approach? Option A. $261,625. Option B. $219,300. Option C. $515,385. Option D. $23,250. The correct answer is option C. $515,385. The income approach using direct capitalization divides net operating income by the capitalization rate. Gross rent multiplier, loan amount, and frontage calculations use different inputs. The cap rate converts expected net income into an indicated value. Question 56. A broker refuses to show listings unless a buyer also uses the broker's mortgage affiliate. What antitrust concept could be implicated for Sawyer and Egan involving a newly built townhouse priced at $221,500? Option A. Accretion. Option B. Estoppel. Option C. Substitution principle. Option D. Tie-in arrangement. The correct answer is option D. Tie-in arrangement. A tie-in arrangement conditions one service on the purchase of another service and can raise antitrust concerns. Accretion, estoppel, and substitution are property or valuation concepts. Consumers should not be unlawfully forced into affiliated services. Question 57. A buyer pays 3% in discount points on a $161,250 loan. Approximately how much are the points? Option A. $4,838. Option B. $806. Option C, $53,750. Option D, $13,438. The correct answer is option A, $4,838. One discount point equals 1% of the loan amount, so the points are calculated by multiplying the loan amount by the point percentage. Monthly interest, down payment, and commission are calculated from different formulas. The point charge is a loan cost calculation, not a sales commission or equity contribution. Question 58. A lot has 255 front feet worth $230 per front foot. What is the indicated front foot value? Option A, $4,107. Option B, $58,650. Option C, $23,550. Option D, $666,667. The correct answer is option B, $58,650. Front foot valuation multiplies frontage by the price per front foot. Tax prioration, commission, and income capitalization rely on other formulas. The question asks only for the land value indicated by frontage. Question 59. At closing, why are prepaid property taxes or rents commonly prorated between buyer and seller for Rowan in Bemidji involving a vacant lot priced at $452,500? Option A. To change the sales price after acceptance. Option B. To avoid recording the deed. Option C. To allocate income or expenses to the party who owned the property during the relevant time period. Option D. To eliminate the need for title insurance. The correct answer is option C, to allocate income or expenses to the party who owned the property during the relevant time period. Priorations allocate recurring income and expenses based on the period each party is entitled to or responsible for them. They do not rewrite the price, avoid recording, or replace title insurance. Closing statements use debits and credits to make this allocation. Question 60. Under the Minnesota Human Rights Act, which protected basis expands beyond the traditional federal fair housing list for Harper and Brainerd involving a small retail building priced at $383,500? Option A, preference for a short commute. Option B, owning two vehicles. Option C, having a fixed-rate mortgage. Option D, status with regard to public assistance. The correct answer is option D, status with regard to public assistance. Minnesota housing and real property discrimination law includes status with regard to public assistance among protected bases. Commute preference, vehicle ownership, and mortgage type are not protected classes. State law can add protections beyond the federal baseline. Question 61. A property owner dies with no will and no heirs. What government power may transfer the property to the state for Sawyer in Egan involving a newly built townhouse priced at $207,000? Option A is cheat. Option B, eminent domain. Option C, literal rights. Option D, subordination. The correct answer is option A, is cheat. Is cheat transfers property to the state when an owner dies without a will and without heirs. Eminent domain involves compensated taking, literal rights involve water, and subordination changes lien priority. The absence of heirs is the clue. Question 62. Recording a deed for a townhome in Beltrami County primarily gives what type of notice to the public? Option A, private notice only to the buyer's lender. Option B, constructive notice. Option C, a zoning variance. Option D, a guarantee of physical condition. The correct answer is option B, constructive notice. Recording places an instrument in the public records and gives constructive notice of the recorded interest. It does not create a zoning variance or guarantee the property's physical condition. The public records system protects priority and notice, not building quality. Question 63. A property use existed legally before a zoning change and may continue despite the new rule. What is it called for Cameron in Winona involving a townhome priced at $341,500? Option A, blockbusting. Option B, estoppel certificate. Option C, legal non-conforming use. Option D, defeasible fee only. The correct answer is option C, legal nonconforming use. A legal nonconforming use lawfully existed before a zoning change and is often allowed to continue under limits. Blockbusting is a fair housing violation, estoppel certificates relate to leases or representations, and defeasible fee is an ownership estate. The timing before the zoning change is key. Question 64. A landlord in Eden Prairie deducts from a security deposit for unpaid rent and damage beyond ordinary wear and tear. What makes those deductions more defensible for Jordan in Eden Prairie involving a condominium unit priced at $202,500? Option A. They are based only on the landlord's dislike of the tenant. Option B. They include normal fading of paint from ordinary use. Option C. They are taken without notice because deposits are always non-refundable. Option D. They are tied to permitted reasons and supported by a written explanation. The correct answer is option D. They are tied to permitted reasons and supported by a written explanation. Minnesota security deposit deductions are generally tied to unpaid obligations or damage beyond ordinary wear and tear, with a written explanation when money is withheld. Personal dislike, normal wear, and treating every deposit as non-refundable are not defensible bases. Documentation is essential in landlord-tenant accounting. Question 65. What is the main purpose of an owner's title insurance policy for Avery Johnson? Option A. To protect against covered title defects that existed before the policy date. Option B. To insure the roof against storm damage. Option C. To guarantee future market appreciation. Option D. To replace the need for a purchase agreement. The correct answer is option A. To protect against covered title defects that existed before the policy date. Owner's title insurance protects against covered past title defects, liens, or ownership issues discovered after closing. It is not property casualty insurance, an appreciation guarantee, or a substitute for the purchase contract. Title insurance focuses on ownership risk, not physical damage or investment performance. Question 66. Which appraisal approach is usually most persuasive for a typical owner-occupied home in a subdivision with many recent comparable sales for Cameron in Winona involving a small retail building priced at $340,000? Option A, cost approach only. Option B, sales comparison approach. Option C, income approach only. Option D, a front foot method only. The correct answer is option B, sales comparison approach. The sales comparison approach is usually strongest when similar properties have sold recently in the same market. The cost approach can be useful for new or special purpose improvements, and the income approach is more relevant to income-producing property. Front foot analysis is a land valuation tool, not the main method for a typical home. Question 67. A licensee in Red Wing wants to know which required continuing education topics must be included in the renewal cycle along with the general module for Finley in Red Wing involving a single-family home priced at $446,000. Option A. Only appraisal theory and mortgage underwriting. Option B. Only property insurance and income tax preparation. Option C. Agency law and fair housing. Option D. Only construction codes and zoning administration. The correct answer is option C, agency law and fair housing. Minnesota renewal requirements include agency representation and disclosure training and fair housing training as part of the required education mix. Appraisal, insurance, tax, construction, and zoning topics may be useful, but they do not replace those mandated topics. The rule is designed to keep licensees current on representation and anti-discrimination duties. Question 68. An easement benefits a neighboring parcel by allowing driveway access across Finley Nolan's land. What type of easement is most likely? Option A, personal license only. Option B, trade fixture. Option C, a mechanic's lien. Option D, easement appurtenant. The correct answer is option D, easement appurtenant. An easement appurtenant benefits another parcel and usually runs with the land. A personal license is revocable permission, a trade fixture is tenant property, and a mechanic's lien secures payment for improvements. The presence of a benefited parcel points to an appurtenant easement. Question 69. At Harbor Realty, a salesperson asks which online system the Commerce Department uses for many licensing services such as applications, renewals, and transfers for Casey in Minneapolis involving a lake cabin priced at $293,000. Option A, Pulse. Option B, MLS Grid. Option C, Torrens Online. Option D, HUD Exchange. The correct answer is option A, Pulse. Pulse is the electronic licensing system used for many Minnesota Commerce Department licensing services. MLS systems, Torrens records, and HUD resources serve different purposes. Knowing the licensing portal helps distinguish administrative filing from transaction records and federal housing resources. Question 70. A buyer transfers contract rights to another buyer but remains liable unless released. What is this called for Quinn in Mankato involving a lake cabin priced at $246,500? Option A, novation with automatic release. Option B, assignment. Option C, this cheat. Option D, ad valorem taxation. The correct answer is option B, assignment. Assignment transfers contractual rights to another party, but the assignor can remain liable unless a release or novation occurs. Is cheat and ad valorem taxation are unrelated. The distinction between assignment and novation is commonly tested. Question 71. A broker tells competing firms to keep commissions at the same percentage in Eden Prairie. What legal risk is most obvious? Option A, accretion. Option B, constructive eviction. Option C, price fixing under antitrust law. Option D, functional obsolescence. The correct answer is option C, price fixing under antitrust law. Competitors agreeing on commission rates can be price fixing, an antitrust violation. Accretion, constructive eviction, and functional obsolescence involve land change, landlord-tenant issues, and valuation. Commissions must be independently negotiated, not fixed by competitors. Question 72. If annual property taxes of $5,600 are prorated to the seller for 105 days on a 365-day basis, approximately what amount is charged to the seller? Option A, $21,175. Option B, $7,623. Option C, $2,144. Option D, $1,611. The correct answer is option D, $1,611. Tax proration divides the annual tax by 365 and multiplies by the number of seller days. Commission, discount points, and monthly interest are unrelated calculations. Proration allocates an annual expense fairly between buyer and seller at closing. Question 73. Which ownership estate gives Casey Rivera the greatest bundle of rights with no stated end date or condition? Option A, fee simple absolute. Option B, estate at sufferance. Option C, life estate. Option D, license. The correct answer is option A, fee simple absolute. Fee simple absolute is the broadest ownership estate and can continue indefinitely. A life estate ends with a measuring life, an estate at sufferance arises from holdover possession, and a license is permission rather than an estate. The key phrase is ownership without a stated end date or condition. Question 74. In a gross lease for a Red Wing office, which cost structure is most typical for Finley and Red Wing involving a lake cabin priced at $243,500? Option A. The tenant pays all property taxes, insurance, and maintenance separately. Option B. The landlord pays most property operating expenses from the rent received. Option C. The tenant receives title at the end of the lease. Option D. The rent is based only on retail sales volume. The correct answer is option B. The landlord pays most property operating expenses from the rent received. In a gross lease, the landlord typically pays most operating expenses and receives rent as a gross amount. Net leases shift more expenses to the tenant, and percentage leases tie rent partly to sales. A lease does not transfer title merely because it is gross. Question 75. Two investors own a Minneapolis duplex with unequal shares and no survivorship language. Which ownership form is most likely for Casey in Minneapolis involving a mixed-use property priced at $272,000? Option A, tenancy by the entirety. Option B, severalty. Option C, tenancy in common. Option D, life tenancy only. The correct answer is option C, tenancy in common. Tenancy in common allows unequal ownership shares and has no automatic right of survivorship. Severalty means one owner, and a life tenancy is measured by a life. Tenancy by the entirety is a special marital form not described by unequal investor shares. Question 76. Which Minnesota tax is generally associated with recording a deed that conveys real property for Hayden in Moorhead involving a duplex priced at $275,500? Option A, mortgage registry tax only. Option B, utility franchise fee. Option C, federal gift tax return fee. Option D, state deed tax. The correct answer is option D, state deed tax. Deed tax is generally associated with recording a deed conveying real property. Mortgage registry tax relates to mortgage debt, while utility franchise and federal gift tax issues are outside the ordinary deed recording charge. The transaction document determines which tax applies. Question 77. Two brokerages agree that one will work only north of St. Cloud and the other only south. What antitrust violation may this suggest? Option A, market allocation. Option B, redemption. Option C, assemblage. Option D is subrogation. The correct answer is option A, market allocation. Market allocation occurs when competitors divide customers or territories instead of competing. Redemption, assemblage, and subrogation are unrelated real estate concepts. Geographic division by competing brokerages creates serious antitrust risk. Question 78. During a first substantive contact with a residential consumer in Moorhead, what disclosure should the licensee provide? Option A, a final closing disclosure showing loan terms. Option B, an agency disclosure form explaining available agency and facilitator relationships. Option C, a county tax statement for the current year. Option D, a deed prepared for recording. The correct answer is option B, an agency disclosure form explaining available agency and facilitator relationships. Minnesota requires an agency disclosure form at the first substantive contact in residential transactions covered by the statute. The form explains representation choices and facilitator status before the consumer decides whether to enter a representation contract. Closing disclosures, tax statements, and deeds serve different functions later in the transaction. Question 79. When Rowan Okafor buys a condominium unit in Mankato, what does the buyer typically own? Option A, only a stock certificate and no real property interest. Option B, the entire building in severalty. Option C, the individual unit plus an undivided interest in the common elements. Option D, a temporary license to occupy the unit. The correct answer is option C, the individual unit plus an undivided interest in the common elements. Condominium ownership generally includes the individual unit and an undivided interest in common elements. A cooperative usually involves shares and a proprietary lease, not condominium ownership. The buyer does not own the whole building alone or merely hold a temporary license. Question 80. A borrower signs a promissory note and mortgage to finance a Red Wing home. What does the note do for Finley and Red Wing involving a single-family home priced at $347,500? Option A, transfers title to the lender at closing. Option B, sets the zoning classification. Option C, records the deed tax payment. Option D, creates the borrower's personal promise to repay the debt. The correct answer is option D, creates the borrower's personal promise to repay the debt. The promissory note is the borrower's promise to repay according to the loan terms. The mortgage secures that promise with a lien on the property. Zoning, title transfer, and deed tax are separate matters. Question 81. A buyer includes an inspection condition in a Bemidji purchase agreement. What is the role of that contingency for Rowan in Bemidji involving a farm parcel priced at $401,000? Option A, It makes the buyer's duty to perform depend on the stated inspection condition being satisfied or waived. Option B. It automatically transfers title to the buyer. Option C. It eliminates the need for earnest money accounting. Option D. It makes the broker a home inspector. The correct answer is option A. It makes the buyer's duty to perform depend on the stated inspection condition being satisfied or waived. A contingency is a condition that must be satisfied, waived, or otherwise resolved for the contract obligations to proceed as written. It does not transfer title or remove trust accounting duties. The broker does not become the inspector merely because the contract contains an inspection contingency. Question 82. In appraisal, what does highest and best use require for Hayden in Moorhead involving a duplex priced at $317,000? Option A. The use that produces the highest commission. Option B. A use that is legally permissible, physically possible, financially feasible, and maximally productive. Option C. The use preferred by the current tenant only. Option D. The use with the lowest property tax bill. The correct answer is option B. A use that is legally permissible, physically possible, financially feasible, and maximally productive. Highest and best use considers legal, physical, financial, and productivity tests. Commission, tenant preference, and tax savings alone do not determine highest and best use. The concept focuses on the most supportable use of the property as real estate. Question 83. A seller instructs the licensee not to disclose a known structural defect to buyers. Which principle controls for Cameron in Winona involving a newly built townhouse priced at $353,000? Option A. The licensee must obey every instruction from a client. Option B. The defect becomes confidential forever. Option C. The licensee cannot obey unlawful instructions that conflict with required disclosure duties. Option D. The buyer's broker alone must discover every defect. The correct answer is option C. The licensee cannot obey unlawful instructions that conflict with required disclosure duties. Obedience applies only to lawful instructions. A client cannot require a licensee to hide a material fact that law requires to be disclosed. The duty to disclose known material defects is not shifted entirely to the buyer's broker. Question 84. Under Minnesota law, which statute is the primary source for real estate broker and salesperson regulation for Casey in Minneapolis involving a single-family home priced at $419,000? Option A. Minnesota Statutes Chapter 287 only. Option B. The Federal Internal Revenue Code only. Option C. A local MLS policy manual only. Option D. Minnesota Statutes Chapter 82. The correct answer is option D. Minnesota Statutes Chapter 82. Chapter 82 governs real estate brokers and salespersons in Minnesota. Chapter 287 covers deed tax and mortgage registry tax topics, and federal tax law or MLS policies do not replace state licensing law. Exam questions often test which authority controls licensing conduct. Question 85. Which fiduciary duty requires a broker to keep client money and property properly accounted for Cameron in Winona involving a newly built townhouse priced at $465,000? Option A. Accounting. Option B. Assemblage. Option C. Accretion. Option D. Divulsion. The correct answer is option A. Accounting. Accounting requires a broker to account for money and property received on behalf of a client. Assemblage, accretion, and avulsion are property or land concepts, not fiduciary duties. The key clue is handling client property and funds. Question 86. A salesperson discovers an error in an advertisement after publication. What is the most professional next step for Taylor and Blaine involving a small retail building priced at $328,500? Option A. Ignore it because errors in ads never matter. Option B. Promptly correct the advertisement and notify the broker according to office procedures. Option C. Blame the buyer publicly. Option D. Delete all transaction records. The correct answer is option B. Promptly correct the advertisement and notify the broker according to office procedures. Advertising must be accurate and compliant, so prompt correction and broker notification are appropriate. Ignoring errors, blaming clients, or deleting records creates greater compliance risk. Professional practice requires correction and documentation. Question 87. A deed gives Schuyler possession for life, then ownership passes to Harper Nolan. What interest does Harper Nolan hold before Schuyler's death? Option A, leasehold estate. Option B, easement in gross. Option C, remainder interest. Option D, mortgage lien. The correct answer is option C, remainder interest. A remainder interest is a future interest that becomes possessory after a life estate ends. A leasehold is a tenant's possession, an easement in gross is a use right, and a mortgage lien secures debt. The buyer's right follows the life tenant's measuring life. Question 88. A listing agreement states the commission amount but does not explain what event earns it. What required item is missing for Casey in Minneapolis involving a mixed-use property priced at $461,000? Option A. A promise that the buyer will waive inspection. Option B. A surveyor's certification for every sale. Option C. A court order approving the commission. Option D. A clear statement of the events or conditions that entitle the broker to a commission. The correct answer is option D. A clear statement of the events or conditions that entitle the broker to a commission. Minnesota listing agreements must explain the events or conditions that entitle the broker to compensation. Inspection waivers, surveyor certifications, and court orders are not substitutes for commission earning terms. Clear compensation triggers protect both broker and client. Question 89. A licensee in Moorhead drafts a complex legal clause for Harper Nolan instead of recommending legal counsel. What risk is created? Option A, unauthorized practice of law. Option B, constructive eviction. Option C, functional obsolescence. Option D, inverse condemnation. The correct answer is option A, unauthorized practice of law. Licensees may fill in approved forms and explain business terms, but drafting legal clauses can cross into unauthorized practice of law. Constructive eviction, functional obsolescence, and inverse condemnation describe different legal or valuation issues. Complex legal drafting should be handled by an attorney. Question 90. If Finley fails to complete required continuing education by the renewal deadline, what license consequence can occur? Option A. The license automatically converts to a broker license. Option B. The license can become inactive. Option C. The license becomes a deed restriction. Option D. The license renews for free without further action. The correct answer is option B. The license can become inactive. Failure to complete continuing education before the deadline can cause a Minnesota real estate license to become inactive. It does not upgrade the license, affect title to property, or waive renewal obligations. Continuing education is a condition of maintaining active status. Question 91. If a Bemidji property sells for $196,500 and the buyer obtains an 75% loan, what is the buyer's down payment? Option A, $147,375. Option B, $12,772. Option C, $49,125. Option D, $3,718. The correct answer is option C, $49,125. The down payment is the sale price minus the loan amount. The loan amount is the financed portion, the commission is a brokerage compensation calculation, and the tax proration allocates property taxes. Separating buyer equity from loan proceeds is a core exam math skill. Question 92. Under Chapter 82 standards, what must a broker do to properly supervise salespersons at a Mankato office for Quinn in Mankato involving a lake cabin priced at $257,500? Option A. Let each salesperson approve their own contracts without broker review. Option B. Delegate all trust records to buyers and sellers. Option C. Supervise only advertising and ignore purchase agreements. Option D. Monitor brokerage activities, review transaction documents, and review trust account books and records. The correct answer is option D. Monitor brokerage activities, review transaction documents, and review trust account books and records. Broker supervision includes ongoing monitoring of salespersons, transaction documents, and trust account records. Salespersons do not self-supervise, and clients are not responsible for brokerage trust accounting. Limiting supervision to advertising would miss major broker responsibilities. Question 93. A listing agreement for a Northfield seller is missing a definite end date. Why is that a licensing problem for Kendall in Northfield involving a fourplex priced at $458,500? Option A. Minnesota listing agreements must include a definite expiration date. Option B. Listing agreements are valid only if they renew forever. Option C. Expiration dates are allowed only in commercial leases. Option D. The county recorder assigns the expiration date after closing. The correct answer is option A. Minnesota listing agreements must include a definite expiration date. Minnesota listing agreements must be written and include a definite expiration date. Automatic indefinite listings create consumer protection concerns and do not meet the required content rules. County recorders do not supply listing agreement expiration dates. Question 94. A Bloomington salesperson wants to place personal money in the broker trust account to save for taxes. Why is that improper for Reese in Bloomington involving a condominium unit priced at $342,500? Option A. Personal funds must always be kept in the listing broker's trust account. Option B. Trust accounts may contain only trust funds except limited identified funds for service charges or minimum balance requirements. Option C. Salespersons may use trust accounts as savings accounts with broker consent. Option D. Commingling is allowed when the amount is less than 1 month's rent. The correct answer is option B. Trust accounts may contain only trust funds except limited identified funds for service charges or minimum balance requirements. Trust accounts are for trust funds, with only limited identified personal funds allowed for service charges or minimum balance requirements. Using the account as a personal savings account would commingle funds. Broker consent or a small amount does not change the commingling rule. Question 95. A licensee exaggerates by saying a backyard view is the best sunset in Minnesota. How is that usually classified for Sawyer in Eagan involving a townhome priced at $288,500? Option A. A guaranteed appraisal. Option B. A material title defect. Option C. Puffing if it is clearly opinion rather than a factual claim. Option D. A deed restriction. The correct answer is option C. Puffing if it is clearly opinion rather than a factual claim. Puffing is an opinion or sales statement that a reasonable person would not treat as a factual guarantee. It differs from misrepresenting a known defect or title issue. The sunset statement is subjective unless tied to a specific false fact. Question 96. After passing the examination, Casey wants to submit a Minnesota salesperson license application immediately. Which education requirement still must be met before applying for Casey in Minneapolis involving a single-family home priced at $452,000? Option A. Only course I is ever required for the license. Option B. A broker's 30-hour course must replace course 3. Option C. No additional education is needed once the exam is passed. Option D. Courses 2 and 3 must be successfully completed if they have not already been completed. The correct answer is option D. Courses 2 and 3 must be successfully completed if they have not already been completed. Course I opens exam eligibility, but courses 2 and 3 must be completed before the salesperson license application. Passing the exam does not erase the remaining pre-license education requirement. The other options either omit required courses or invent a broker-only replacement course. Question 97. A property manager collects rent for an owner in Red Wing. How should those funds generally be treated before proper disbursement for Finley in Red Wing involving a single-family home priced at $473,000? Option A. As trust funds handled according to the broker's trust account obligations. Option B. As the manager's personal operating funds. Option C. As sales tax collected for the state. Option D. As title insurance premiums. The correct answer is option A, as trust funds handled according to the broker's trust account obligations. Rent collected for an owner is money held for another and must be handled under trust accounting duties. It is not the manager's personal money, a sales tax fund, or a title insurance premium. Property management requires careful separation of client funds. Question 98. A parcel borders a lake near Blaine. Rights associated with use of the lake shore are commonly called what for Taylor and Blaine, involving a small retail building priced at $411,500? Option A, riparian rights only. Option B, literal rights. Option C, fixture rights. Option D, novation rights. The correct answer is option B, literal rights. Literal rights generally relate to property bordering lakes, seas, or oceans. Riparian rights involve rivers and streams. Fixtures concern attached property, and novation is contract substitution. The lakefront fact drives the answer. Question 99. A buyer deposits earnest money with a broker in the form of a negotiable note rather than cash. What extra care is needed for Harper and Brainerd involving a newly built townhouse priced at $220,000? Option A. The broker may throw it away because it is not cash. Option B. It can be placed in the broker's personal safe without records. Option C. The non-depositable item must be handled through authorized escrow with written authority and proper records. Option D. It automatically becomes commission income. The correct answer is option C. The non-depositable item must be handled through authorized escrow with written authority and proper records. Non-depositable items received as earnest money require careful escrow handling, written authority when the broker holds them, and proper records. They are not discarded, hidden as personal property, or treated as commission income. The rule protects all parties' interests in non-cash deposits. Question 100. While interviewing with two firms in St. Cloud, Hayden asks how many Minnesota brokers may supervise the salesperson during the same period. Option A. 2 brokers if both brokers consent. Option B. Any number of brokers if the salesperson discloses the arrangement. Option C. 1 broker for residential sales and a separate broker for leases. Option D. 1 actively licensed broker. The correct answer is option D. 1 actively licensed broker. A salesperson in Minnesota is licensed to act on behalf of 1 broker during the same period. Consent or disclosure does not create authority to work under multiple brokers. Splitting residential and leasing work between brokers would still violate the Single Broker Association rule.